everyone. Welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, July 14th, 2010, and I am Darko. I'll be covering this article, Did BP Play a Role in the Release of a Notorious Terrorist? And they're talking about the infamous Lockerbie bomber on Pan Am Flight 103. And I'll just cut right into a video right now.
Well, BP has come under blistering criticism in recent months as oil from its Deepwater Horizon well continues to spill into the Gulf of Mexico. But Wall Street Journal foreign affairs columnist Bret Stephens says there may be even better reason to dislike the oil giant as evidence grows that BP profited from last summer's release of Lockerbie bomber Abdel Baset al-Megrahi. Bret joins us now. So, Bret, what's the connection between BP and the release of Megrahi?
Well, just a few days ago, the Libyan government announced that BP would begin deep water drilling in its...
off of Libya.
Off of the Libyan
notwithstanding the Gulf of Mexico.
No, definitely notwithstanding the Gulf of Mexico. And in fact, that Libya might take a strategic stake in BP. Now, this follows news also in recent days that Abdel Baset al-Megrahi, the only man convicted for the 1988 Lockerbie bombing, who was released last year on the compassionate grounds that he had only a few months to live and is still alive, might in fact live another 10 or 20 years. That was a statement by a doctor who offered the 3-month prognosis, but now says that he more or less gave that prognosis because he thought it could be, quote, sort of justified.
Well, let's take this in turn. This is this offshore drilling in Libya is very big. It's something like a $900 million project, so it's a very big contract. BP itself said it was something like the equivalent of 2,000 blocks, exploration blocks in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, it's absolutely enormous because these are oil blocks right off the coast, which Libya itself doesn't have the Libyan oil company doesn't have the technology to explore, but they need a big Western oil company that can do the kind of deep water drilling. And the question is, how did BP get itself to get these contracts?
Well, that is the question, because the British deny any quid pro quo between the release of Megrahi and the contracts. BP denies it, I'm sure. So what's the evidence?
Well, look, in 2004, when Gaddafi came in from the cold, then
gave up his nuclear program. Said he wanted to normalize relations.
Tony Blair paid a number of
former British Prime Minister.
Former British Prime Minister paid a number of visits, and on his second visit in 2007, BP and the Libyan government inked an oil exploration deal, but there was a hiccup. The Libyans were insisting on what they call a prisoner transfer agreement between the two countries, which sounds like, you know, one of these vanilla agreements that two countries reach. But the man who was plainly in question in any kind of prisoner transfer agreement was Megrahi, the guy who was then in a Scottish jail. So they made this agreement, and then the UK took its time with this prisoner transfer agreement. So the Libyan government started saying, well, we're not so sure we're going to go ahead with the BP deal. At this point, we know BP has admitted that it raised the issue of the prisoner transfer agreement with the then Labour government in Britain.
UK.
It had a special advisor who was a former MI6 intelligence official who was well connected with Labour Party officials and who also raised the subject of the prisoner transfer agreement. Lo and behold, at the end of 2007, the UK finally gets around to signing this agreement, and it's at that point that the BP deal starts going forward.
We also have a statement from Gaddafi's son, who has wanted to open up to the West and is well known in British circles, that the oil contract was at issue.
Yeah, no, it's clear both from not only from what the Libyans have said, Saif Gaddafi, but also from correspondence that was obtained by the London Sunday Times, in which then Justice Minister Jack Straw writes to his Scottish counterpart, talking about the, quote, overwhelming interests of the UK in getting this agreement passed. And it's funny, the Libyans kept dragging their heels all the way up until Megrahi was released.
Here's the question, though. Why shouldn't Britain do this? I mean, it's in their national interest, obviously, to have oil exploration, a company do this. Megrahi is ill. We don't know how ill, that's true. And this is 20-some years ago. Here's the question. I mean, if Gaddafi wants to come in from the cold, maybe shouldn't we just move on?
I would say there are 270 reasons not to do that, and those are the 270 people who were murdered on Pan Am 103. I mean, there's no question. Look, oil companies go into all kinds of dangerous places with regimes that we don't necessarily like, which have spotty human rights records. But Lockerbie is a case apart, and it's also in the UK's national interest to have good relations with the United States. This was a signal case in the war on terrorism, so there was a line to be drawn, and the British crossed it, in my mind.
All right, Brett, thank you. We have to...
And I think this has been out for a little while as far as the Lockerbie trade going with BP and that for at least, about almost a good month now. But I just thought I would post this so down the road when BP gets broken up into pieces, but they still exist, or they rebrand, give a new brand image to their company's name, people can look back and see how criminal they really were. So I've had other videos where Goldman Sachs and BP were profiting off of the housing crisis. I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, so I believe that they are going to get broken up, and this is just another thing that will help that take place. But it says, and this is from July 13th, 2010, it says a U.S. lawmaker is calling on the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations to investigate whether BP influenced the release of Pan Am Flight 103 Lockerbie bomber. It says Democratic Senator Frank Lautenberg of New Jersey wants to know whether a quid pro quo led to the 2009 decision by UK and Scottish lawmakers to set Libyan terrorists free. It says Megrahi was sentenced to life in prison in 2001 but was released last year when doctors said he had only 3 months to live before dying of cancer. A doctor now says he could live a decade, according to the AP, and the senator wants to know whether the bomber's release was connected to a BP plan to drill for oil off Libya, which the senator says could earn the company up to $20 billion. And it's all about the timing of this deal. They were trying to do this drilling, and it never went forward. Like the guy said, it just kept stalling and stalling until eventually the UK allowed it to happen, and then the BP deal went forward. It says a bomb aboard Flight 103 blew up Lockerbie, Scotland on December 21st, 1988, killing 270 people, 189 of them American. The plane was headed from London's Heathrow, sorry if I don't pronounce that right, airport to New York's JFK International Airport. And so, in just to throw this out there, let me just read this real quick. It says, in a written letter to Senators John Kerry and Dick Lugar, the committee chairman and ranking Republican, Lautenberg called for a full investigation. He said, quote, reports have surfaced indicating that a 2007 oil agreement may have influenced the UK and Scottish government's positions concerning Mr. Megrahi's release in 2009. BP admits that in 2007, it told the UK government it was concerned that a delay in concluding a prisoner transfer agreement with the Libyan government may hurt the oil deal. Furthermore, letters have been released showing that Jack Straw, the UK's Secretary of State for Justice, initially intended to exclude Megrahi from the prisoner transfer agreement but later switched his position, citing the wider negotiations with the Libyans and overwhelming interest in the UK. British Petroleum has just announced it will begin deep water drilling next month off Libya's coast, and it is estimated BP could earn as much as $20 billion from the deal. It is shocking to even contemplate that this company is profiting from the release of a terrorist with the blood of 189 Americans on his hands. So it's pretty much like I said, I just wanted to put this out there so that it is in this little historical archive on YouTube. It kind of reminds me of the whole Russian spy ring that was going on here in 2010 in the summer, where President Obama said, he had burgers and stuff with Medvedev, the Russian president, and said that we're going to hit the reset button, which really meant that the reset button means that they're going to start the Cold War again. And so, yeah, it was a prisoner exchange, right? It was a prisoner exchange. We exchanged, we set up a deal. And Obama knew about it before we even knew in the public that there was a prisoner swap going on between Russia and the U.S. They were already talking about it. They were already doing it. And then they just let us in and let us know about it. All I ever heard in the news was that they were deported. Thank you.